At 28, Nadia Rahman had learned that expensive flowers died exactly like cheap ones, slowly, beautifully, and without apologizing. She remembered that as she stood beneath the glass roof of Rivermere Conservatory in a wedding dress with tiny pearl buttons down her back, watching rain slide down the green iron frames her mother had once restored by hand. Her fiancé, Ethan Ward, was supposed to be downstairs greeting the guests who had arrived early for the rehearsal dinner. Instead, he was in the orchid room with Iris Chin, Nadia's maid of honor, one hand braced against a marble pedestal and the other tangled in Iris's dark hair. Nadia did not scream. The sound that left her was smaller, almost polite. Ethan jerked away first. His face emptied of color. Iris covered her mouth, then reached for a shawl as if fabric could turn back time. "Nadia," Ethan said, too quickly. "This is not what it looks like." She looked at the lipstick on his mouth, at Iris's crooked dress, at the invitation card crushed beneath his shoe. "It looks expensive," Nadia said. "Like everything else you ruined." Ethan stepped toward her. "Please, let me explain." A low voice came from the doorway behind Nadia. "He has had 3 years to explain who he is." Ethan froze. Nadia turned. The woman standing there wore a black suit cut with severe precision, rain glittering on her silver-streaked hair. She was taller than Nadia, perhaps 33, with a face newspapers loved to call ruthless and eyes that looked less cruel than tired. Sloane Mercer, founder of Mercer Holdings. The woman who had dismantled the Ward family's first hotel empire after proving Ethan's father had built it with stolen pension money. The woman Ethan had once called a vulture. The woman he was most afraid of. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked. His voice cracked on the final word. Sloane's gaze never left him. "Saving a building." "It seems I arrived in time to save a woman, too." Nadia hated the heat that rose in her cheeks. She did not need saving. Not from Ethan. Not from a woman who had entered her humiliation like it was a board meeting. "I don't know you," Nadia said. "No," Sloane replied. "But your mother knew me." That sentence landed harder than the betrayal. Amara Rahman had died 6 years earlier, leaving Nadia Rivermere Conservatory, a restoration fund, and a warning never to let the Wards touch either. Nadia had assumed grief had made her mother suspicious. Ethan had patiently taught her otherwise, or so she had believed. Sloane placed a cream envelope on the marble table. "Do not sign anything Ethan gives you tonight." Not an apology, not a cancellation, not a napkin. Ethan's fear sharpened into anger. "You have no right." Sloane finally looked at Nadia. "The right is yours. The choice is yours. But by morning, he will ask for your signature." Then she walked away, leaving rainwater on the floor and a silence so complete Nadia could hear one orchid petal fall. Nadia spent the night in the old caretaker's apartment above Rivermere's East Wing, still wearing half her wedding dress and one shoe. The conservatory had been her mother's first love before Nadia had been born, a Victorian greenhouse rescued from demolition, full of medicinal herbs, wedding roses, and school children's crooked labels. It had always made Nadia feel protected. That night, every glass wall felt transparent. Ethan called 31 times. Iris called twice, then stopped. Nadia ignored them both until sunrise leaked pale blue over the fern room. The envelope Sloane had left sat on the kitchen table. Inside was a copy of a loan agreement. Nadia read it once, then again, because the first time her mind refused to understand the figures. Her name appeared beside a personal guarantee for £800,000. The collateral listed was Rivermere Conservatory and the restoration fund her mother had placed in trust. Nadia had never signed it. A second sheet showed a proposed emergency sale to Ward Urban Developments. The buyer was a shell company. The date was 3 days away. At the bottom, in a sharp black note, Sloane had written, "Ask Ethan why he needs the conservatory before the trust board meets. Do not ask him alone." The door downstairs slammed. Nadia's stomach dropped. Ethan entered the apartment without knocking, carrying coffee and the expression he used whenever a client had to be charmed into forgiving him. He had changed into a navy coat. He looked handsome enough to make her angry at herself for ever trusting her own eyes. "I found you," he said softly. You had help. The security cameras are yours. His smile faltered. Nadia, about last night. Was Iris the first? He set the coffee down. It was a mistake. A mistake is sending the wrong invoice. You planned a wedding while sleeping with my best friend. Iris meant nothing. The cruelty of it was almost elegant. Nadia thought of Iris adjusting her veil, pinning Nadia's hair, promising she would not let her trip walking toward Ethan. Ethan moved closer. I love you. I do. But we have bigger problems now. There it is. Nadia lifted the loan agreement. What is this? For one impossible second, Ethan looked frightened. Then he recovered. A temporary bridge loan. I was going to tell you after the wedding. You forged my signature. I protected us. The conservatory needs investment. Your mother's little garden cannot survive on sentiment. My mother told me never to let the wards touch it. He laughed once, without humor. And now you are taking advice from Sloane Mercer? She destroys people for sport. Why are you afraid of her? Ethan's eyes hardened. Because she wants what belongs to us. The answer was too quick. Too rehearsed. Nadia folded the papers and stepped away from him. Leave. He reached for her wrist. She flinched before he touched her. That hurt him. Or perhaps it only annoyed him. Fine, Ethan said. But the board meeting is tomorrow. Without me, you will not understand what they are saying. Nadia opened the apartment door. Then I will bring someone who does. For the first time since she had known him, Ethan looked genuinely afraid. Sloane Mercer's office occupied the top floor of a converted observatory overlooking the river. It was not lavish. Nadia had expected black marble, champagne, and assistants who moved like trained birds. Instead, there were old maps, shelves of architecture books, and a dying lemon tree beside the window. Sloane stood when Nadia arrived. Thank you for coming. I did not come to thank you. I assumed not. Nadia placed the forged loan papers on Sloane's desk. Tell me why you know about this. Sloane did not touch them. Because the shell company trying to buy Rivermere used the same law firm that helped Ethan's father hide pension money. I have watched the wards rebuild their network for years. And you decided to watch me too? I watched Rivermere. There is a difference. The distinction should have irritated Nadia. Instead, it made her want to ask questions she was not ready to hear. Sloane poured tea into 2 plain cups. Your mother sat on the original trust board. Before she died, she asked me to keep an eye on the conservatory if the wards ever circled it. My mother knew you? We worked together. She restored buildings. I untangled the funding around them. She was better at both. Nadia stared at the lemon tree, at one small green fruit clinging stubbornly to a dry branch. Why didn't she tell me? Because she hoped she would never need to. Sloane's voice softened. And because she believed you deserved a life not shaped by her fears. The tenderness in that answer broke something loose in Nadia's chest. Sloane opened a folder. Tomorrow, Ethan will ask the trust board to approve an emergency sale. He will argue the fund is insolvent. He has manufactured delays in restoration payments to make that seem true. Can we stop him? Yes. But we need proof that he forged your signature and diverted money. We. Sloane's mouth shifted, almost a smile. You may use whatever pronoun makes you less uncomfortable. Nadia hated that she smiled back. Sloane explained the plan. Nadia would revoke Ethan's authority over the wedding accounts, attend the board meeting with independent counsel, and allow Mercer Holdings to audit Rivermere's contracts. It was sensible. It was clean. It required no grand gesture. Then Sloane added, Ethan may become reckless when he realizes you are no longer isolated. Nadia folded her arms. You think I need a bodyguard? I think you need choices. A knock interrupted them. Sloane's assistant entered with a tablet, then paused when she saw Nadia. Ms. Mercer, Mr. Ward is in the lobby. Sloane's face went still. He says he is here for his fiancé, the assistant continued. Nadia's throat tightened. The word fiancé had become a blade overnight. Sloane looked at her. You can leave through the private stairwell. Or you can tell him, in front of everyone, that he no longer speaks for you. Outside the glass walls, the river flashed silver beneath a gathering storm. Nadia stood. Her knees shook, but her voice did not. Take me to the lobby. Ethan was waiting beneath the observatory's brass telescope, surrounded by employees pretending not to stare. He had brought flowers. White lilies, Nadia noticed. Her mother had hated lilies because they reminded her of funerals. Nadia, Ethan said, relief flooding his face when he saw her. Thank God. I have been worried sick. Sloane descended the staircase beside Nadia, close enough that Nadia could feel warmth through the air between them. Ethan noticed. His fingers tightened around the flowers. We need to go home, he said. We need to talk privately. There is nothing private about a forged loan, Nadia replied. A hush spread across the lobby. Ethan's smile became a warning. You do not understand the paperwork. I understand my name. He looked at Sloane. This is exactly what she wants. She is using you. Sloane said nothing. The silence was deliberate, giving Nadia room to choose her own words. That small restraint felt more intimate than any speech Ethan had ever made about loving her. Nadia looked at the lilies, then at the man who had bought them without remembering anything important. I am hiring independent counsel. You are not attending the trust meeting as my representative. You are not entering Rivermere without permission. And you are not calling me your fiancé again. Ethan's face changed. Beneath the charm, something raw and furious surfaced. You cannot do this. I already did. He lowered his voice. You think she cares about you? Sloane cares about winning. She will turn your mother's memory into another trophy. Nadia should have been frightened. Instead, she saw Sloane's jaw tighten. Not at the insult. At the mention of Amara. Ethan thrust the lilies at Nadia. She did not take them. Then, without planning it, she turned toward Sloane and reached for her hand. Sloane's fingers were cool, steady, and immediately open. The entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. I am leaving with Sloane, Nadia said. Ethan's gaze dropped to their joined hands. You barely know her. That was true yesterday. Nadia lifted her chin. Yesterday, I barely knew you. They walked outside together into the rain. The moment they crossed the revolving door, Nadia let go, embarrassed by the boldness of it. But Sloane did not look amused. She looked as shaken as Nadia felt. I am sorry if that was too much, Nadia said. It was exactly enough. A black car waited at the curb. Sloane opened the passenger door, but before Nadia could enter, her phone buzzed. A message from Iris. I did something terrible. Ethan has the videos. Meet me alone tonight, or he will send them to everyone. Below it was a photograph of a small steel key, stained with blood. Nadia looked up. Across the street, Ethan stood beneath an awning, watching them leave. Sloane did not ask who had sent the message. She read it over Nadia's shoulder, then took one slow breath through her nose. Ethan has videos of what? She asked. I do not know. Nadia's fingers had gone numb around the phone. Iris says she did something terrible. People who are being threatened often describe survival as wrongdoing. The sentence was calm, but Sloane was already moving. She spoke to her driver, called someone named June, and asked whether the car's emergency kit was stocked. Nadia should have objected to the sudden machinery of protection. Instead, she felt an embarrassing relief. Iris said to meet her alone, Nadia whispered. And Ethan wants you frightened enough to obey. What if he hurts her? Sloane met her eyes. Then we do not waste time. They drove to a 24-hour cafe near the river, the kind that smelled of burnt coffee and old raincoats. Sloane parked across the street. Nadia entered alone, as promised, while Sloane and June remained close enough to see through the window. Iris sat in the rear booth with both hands around a mug. Her mascara had streaked into gray shadows beneath her eyes. She looked less like the woman who had stood beside Ethan than someone who had been standing at the edge of a cliff for months. I am sorry, Iris said before Nadia had sat down. I am so sorry. Nadia wanted to say the apology was late. She wanted to say Iris had helped choose the music for a wedding she was quietly breaking apart. But Iris's left sleeve was pulled low over her wrist, and beneath it Nadia saw the shape of bruises. Tell me the truth, Nadia said. I did sleep with him. Iris swallowed. At first I thought he loved me. Then I tried to end it, and he showed me recordings from his apartment. He records everyone. He said if I went to you, he would send them to my parents, my employer, anyone. Nadia's anger rearranged itself. It did not disappear. It simply found a larger target. "The key?" she asked. Iris slid it across the table. "Locker 412 at Central Station." I copied files from his laptop. There are bank transfers, contracts, everything. But there is something else. Something about your mother. The cafe door opened. Ethan walked in, dry despite the rain, smiling as if he had been invited. Iris made a strangled sound. "Nadia," he said. "You should not listen to someone who is trying to save herself." Sloane appeared at Nadia's side before Ethan reached the booth. She had no umbrella, only rain on her shoulders and a look that made Ethan stop. "You are violating a no-contact instruction," Sloane said. "I have no instruction from her." Nadia stood. Her heart was beating hard, but not from fear alone. "You do now. Leave." Ethan's smile cracked. "You have no idea what Sloane has hidden from you." "Then I will ask her," Nadia said. "That is what adults do." For a second, Ethan looked almost pleased, as if he had planted a seed exactly where he wanted it. Then he left. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere along the river. Iris pressed her palms to her eyes. Sloane picked up the key without touching it directly. "Central Station," she said. "Now." Central Station after midnight was a cathedral built for people leaving. Its clocks glowed above empty platforms, and announcements echoed through tiled corridors with no one listening. Nadia walked beside Sloane toward the baggage lockers, the steel key heavy in her pocket. "You do not have to do this tonight," Sloane said. "Yes, I do." Sloane nodded. "Then I stay." Locker 412 opened with a metallic groan. Inside sat a blue document case, an old digital recorder, and a photograph in a cracked silver frame. Nadia picked up the photograph first. It showed her mother laughing in front of Rivermere's unfinished West Wing. Beside Amara stood a younger Sloane in paint-spattered jeans, holding a rolled blueprint. They were not touching, but they looked close in the way people did when they had survived something difficult together. "You said you worked together," Nadia murmured. "We did." "You did not say you were friends." Sloane's expression tightened. "I did not know whether that word would make you trust me less." Nadia set the frame down. "You keep deciding what I can handle." A flicker of pain crossed Sloane's face. "You are right." The recorder clicked on after 3 attempts. Ethan's voice filled the narrow corridor. "Once the sale is approved, she is nothing but the trust payment. She will sign whatever I put in front of her. She always wants peace." Another man laughed. Nadia recognized the voice of Martin Hale, chair of Rivermere's trust board. "And Mercer?" Martin asked. "Mercer is a problem. But she has her own history with Amara. If Nadia finds out why Sloane really protected the property, she will turn on her." The recording ended. Nadia stared at Sloane. "What history?" Sloane went very still. "There is a letter in the case." Inside the blue folder were transfer records, copies of Nadia's forged loan, and a sealed envelope addressed in her mother's handwriting. "For Nadia, if Sloane ever has to tell you what I could not." Nadia's hands shook so badly she could not open it. A station light blinked overhead. Somewhere behind them, a suitcase wheel squeaked across tile. "Read it," Sloane said quietly. "Then ask me anything." Nadia tore the envelope. The letter began with an apology. Amara wrote that years earlier she had discovered Ethan's father planned to buy Rivermere through debt and destroy it for luxury apartments. Sloane had helped her build a legal shield around the conservatory. But there was a second confession. Amara had borrowed money from Sloane personally to finish the restoration after a disastrous flood. "I never repaid her," the letter said. "She forgave the debt, but I could not forgive myself. If she stays near you, do not assume it is charity. She loved Rivermere because I did. And perhaps she loved me a little too, in the brave, unfinished way we never named." Nadia's breath caught. The final line was worse. "If Ethan is near you when this is read, do not trust anyone who says Sloane is the danger." A shadow moved at the far end of the corridor. Sloane's hand closed around Nadia's elbow. "We are leaving." The man approaching wore a station cleaner uniform. In his hand was a small camera, already recording. "Smile," he said. "Mr. Ward says the papers will look convincing if Ms. Rahman steals them with Mercer." June handled the man with the camera before Nadia fully understood what was happening. She appeared from behind a column, took his wrist, and turned the device toward the floor with a movement so efficient it looked rehearsed. The man ran. June did not chase him. She simply photographed his badge and called the police. By dawn, Nadia had not slept. She sat in Sloane's office wrapped in a wool blanket someone had found in a cupboard, reading her mother's letter until the words blurred. Sloane remained at the far end of the room, giving her distance. "You loved her," Nadia said finally. Sloane looked toward the rain-streaked window. "I loved her. She loved your father. Later, she loved the work we did together. We were never a secret romance, Nadia. We were two women who nearly made a different choice, and we're grateful we did not ruin a friendship by pretending it was less than it was." The honesty was not neat. That made it easier to believe. "You forgave her debt?" "I invested in Rivermere. Your mother refused to call it anything else." "Why keep that from me?" "Because I did not want you to think I was protecting the conservatory to collect something from you." Nadia studied the woman who had made herself look hard enough to survive every accusation. "And were you?" Sloane's gaze returned to hers. "No." The trust hearing began at 10 in a gray municipal room that smelled of old paper and radiator heat. Ethan arrived in a charcoal suit, composed and devastatingly familiar. Martin Hale sat at the head of the table with 3 other trustees. Iris came with a lawyer from a victims advocacy service, pale but upright. Ethan looked at Nadia and smiled as if they were still planning a honeymoon. "Nadia has been under enormous stress," he began. "The wedding cancellation has clearly affected her judgment. Ms. Mercer has exploited that vulnerability." Nadia's palms dampened. For a moment, she wanted to shrink. Ethan had always known how to make concern sound like love. Then Sloane slid a glass of water toward her without speaking. Nadia stood. "I am under stress because Ethan forged my signature, drained the restoration fund, and cheated on me with my maid of honor. Those are not symptoms. They're facts." Ethan's lawyer objected. Martin called for order. Iris placed the copied transfers on the table. Her voice trembled, but it carried. She described the recordings, the threats, and Ethan's instructions to delay contractor payments until Rivermere looked insolvent. The room changed around her. One trustee stopped taking notes. Another removed his glasses. Ethan's composure finally slipped. "You are a liar." "So are you," Iris said. "I learned from the best." The board voted to freeze the sale for 48 hours pending a forensic audit. It was not victory, but it was air. Outside the hearing room, Ethan caught Nadia near the elevator. "You think this ends with a vote?" he whispered. "Ask Sloane why your mother changed the trust after the flood. Ask her whose name almost replaced yours." Nadia turned to confront him, but he was already gone. In the elevator, Sloane's reflection stood beside hers in the brass doors. "What did he mean?" Nadia asked. Sloane did not answer immediately. That pause was answer enough. Sloane took Nadia back to Rivermere after the hearing. The conservatory was closed to visitors because of the legal dispute, and without children, gardeners, or wedding planners moving through it, the building sounded alive in unfamiliar ways. Pipes clicked. Leaves trembled against glass. Rain ticked above them like impatient fingers. "You should tell me now," Nadia said beneath the central dome. Whatever Ethan meant. Sloane set her umbrella aside. "After the flood, your mother was ill. She thought she might not recover. She drafted a temporary amendment to the trust. To give Rivermere to you. To give operational control to me until you were ready. You were 22, grieving your father, and starting your apprenticeship. Amara did not want you forced into a battle you had not chosen. But she changed it back. Yes, the moment she improved. Why did you not tell me?" "Because it never came into effect." Sloane's voice lowered. "And because I was ashamed that part of me was relieved. Not because I wanted what was yours. Because I wanted the building safe. I wanted her safe. I wanted a plan for every loss, which is not the same as having the right to make one." Nadia had expected anger. Instead, she felt the ache of recognizing a flaw she shared. She, too, built plans around fear. She had planned a wedding rather than asking why Ethan rushed every decision. She had believed peace was safety. Ethan uses every secret like a knife, Nadia said. Yes. And you use secrets like a lock. Sloane gave a small, wounded laugh. That is more accurate than I would like. They stood close beneath the vines. Nadia could smell rain and bergamot on Sloane's coat. She remembered Sloane's fingers closing around hers in the lobby, neither possessive nor hesitant. Just there. I do not know what I am doing, Nadia admitted. You do not have to know today. I know I do not want to be handled. You will not be. Nadia stepped nearer. And I do not want you to keep standing 3 rooms away every time I am sad. Sloane's eyes softened. That I can try to change. The kiss was careful at first, almost a question. Nadia answered by touching Sloane's jaw, feeling the sharp inhale against her mouth. There was no audience, no contract, no revenge in it. Only the terrifying relief of being wanted without being managed. Sloane pulled back first. Nadia. I know. We are in the middle of a crisis. I know. And you ended an engagement 2 days ago. Nadia smiled despite herself. You're very good at ruining a kiss. I am trying to protect you. Then start by believing I can protect myself. Sloane looked as if she might kiss her again. A phone rang. Not Nadia's. Sloane's. June's voice came through the speaker, clipped and urgent. The forensic team found an amendment in the trust archive. It is dated 3 weeks before Amara died. It names Sloane Mercer as sole beneficiary if Nadia marries a ward. The conservatory seemed to tilt. Nadia stared at Sloane. Sloane stared at the floor. I have never seen that document, she said. But this time, Nadia did not know whether to believe her. Nadia left Rivermere before Sloane could explain again. She told herself she needed air, not distance. The distinction mattered, even if it did not feel true. She walked through the river district until the rain stopped, then sat on a bench beneath a closed bookshop and read the alleged amendment on June's forwarded scan. The language was elegant, almost too elegant. It said that if Nadia married into the Ward family, Sloane would become Rivermere's sole beneficiary to prevent the Wards from gaining control through marriage. It sounded like her mother. It sounded like fear. It also sounded like a trap designed for exactly this moment. Ethan found her there. He approached without an umbrella, hands in his pockets, as if they had planned to meet. Nadia's body reacted before her mind did. She stood and moved toward the street. Do not, Ethan said. I am not here to hurt you. You have a strange definition of not hurting people. His face tightened. I made mistakes. You made a business plan out of my life. I wanted us secure. You wanted Rivermere. I wanted you. His voice became softer. And Sloane wanted the building. You are the one thing she never expected to get. Nadia laughed once, sharp enough to hurt. You still think women only want things from each other. Ethan stepped closer. Did she tell you about the amendment? About your mother promising her everything if you married me. She said she never saw it. And you believed her? Nadia hated that he had chosen the exact wound she was trying not to touch. Why show me this if it helps Sloane? Because I am tired of pretending you are safe with her. He held out his phone. On the screen was a video of Sloane entering a private archive room 3 weeks earlier. The timestamp was clear. Sloane carried a thin folder beneath her arm. Nadia's stomach turned. Come back to me, Ethan said. I can fix the loan. I can fix the sale. We can expose her together. The old Nadia might have accepted the version of rescue he offered. The old Nadia might have confused his certainty for care. Instead, she handed his phone back. You did not come here to save me. You came because you are losing. Ethan's eyes darkened. If you choose her, you will regret it. Maybe, Nadia said. But the regret will be mine. Not yours to invoice. She walked away before he could answer. At Mercer Holdings, Sloane was waiting in the observatory with the amendment on her desk and exhaustion written plainly across her face. I did go into the archive, Sloane said. I found the document there. I took it to compare signatures. I should have told you. Nadia wanted to demand every answer. Instead, she asked the harder question. Can you prove you did not write it? Sloane nodded once. Not yet. The honesty hurt. But it was still honesty. The forensic audit moved into Rivermere the next morning, filling the conservatory with scanners, document boxes, and people who spoke in low voices about ink composition. Nadia spent hours with June reviewing bank transfers. Sloane kept a respectful distance, asking before entering any room Nadia occupied. It was considerate. It was unbearable. Near noon, a woman in a red coat arrived carrying a leather portfolio. She was striking, perhaps in her late 30s, with a composed face and a gold ring on her thumb. Sloane's posture changed the moment she saw her. "Celeste," Sloane said. "Nadia," the woman replied, offering a hand. "I am Sloane's former general counsel." Former. The word landed with unnecessary weight. Celeste spread copies of the amendment across a table in the Palm House. "The document is fraudulent," she said. The notary stamp belonged to a retired solicitor who died 2 years ago. The paper itself is new. Relief hit Nadia so quickly it almost made her dizzy. But, Celeste continued, someone had access to the original trust files, Sloane's old correspondence with Amara, and enough money to hire a competent forger. "Ethan," Nadia said. "Possibly," Celeste said. "Or someone who benefits from turning you against Sloane." Nadia looked at Sloane. "Martin Hale." Sloane nodded. "He controls the archive access." Celeste's eyes moved between them, observant but not unkind. "There is another complication. The forged amendment was placed after the loan papers were prepared. Whoever did this expected Nadia to discover it only after she had started trusting Sloane. The cruelty of that design chilled Nadia. It was not merely about stealing Rivermere. It was about making her doubt her own ability to choose anyone. Later, Nadia found Celeste alone by the rose tables. "Were you and Sloane together?" Nadia asked before courage could leave. Celeste smiled faintly. "For 6 years. Long ago." Nadia looked down at a fallen rose petal. "Does she always keep secrets because she thinks she knows best?" "Yes," Celeste said. "It is her worst habit." "That is not comforting." "It should not be. But she also stays. Even when staying costs her." Celeste paused. "Sloane has not slept since your wedding rehearsal. She thinks if she watches every door, nothing bad can enter." Nadia thought of the woman in the black suit standing in the orchid room. A barrier, not a savior. At the far end of the conservatory, Sloane was speaking to June. Her face was composed again, but Nadia now saw the effort inside it. Nadia crossed the room. "I have something to ask," she said. Sloane dismissed June immediately. "Anything. Do not protect me by hiding things. Protect me by telling me the truth while I still have time to use it." Sloane swallowed. "I can do that." "Good." Nadia held out her hand. "Then tell me what you found in my mother's old correspondence." Sloane placed a small key in her palm. "Your mother left a safety deposit box," she said. "And Ethan emptied it yesterday." The bank manager confirmed it with the kind of sympathy that made Nadia feel like a child. The safety deposit box had been opened at 9:43 the previous morning by a man using a power of attorney that bore Nadia's forged signature. Ethan had taken whatever Amara had meant Nadia to find. Nadia sat in the bank's private viewing room, staring at the velvet-lined emptiness as if it might produce answers from shame alone. Sloane stood behind her, close but not touching. "What was in it?" Nadia asked. "I do not know," Sloane said. "Your mother only told me it contained proof she hoped never to use." "Proof of what?" "Of how the Wards financed their first attempt to buy Rivermere." Nadia pressed her palms against the table. "Then Ethan has everything." "Not everything." Sloane took out her phone and showed Nadia a photograph June had received from an anonymous number. It pictured Ethan in a parking garage holding a small metal case. Behind him stood Martin Hale. Below the image was a message: "The case is a decoy. Ask about the blueprints." Nadia read it twice. "Who sent this?" "Unknown." "Iris. She says it was not her." The anonymous message led them back to Rivermere's original restoration plans. Nadia spent the afternoon in the basement archive, where rolled blueprints slept in labeled drawers. She knew the handwriting on every old sheet. Her mother had annotated structural cracks in green pencil and added tiny flowers beside repairs she was proud of. At the bottom of a tube marked West Wing Roof, Nadia found a narrow strip of paper taped to the plan. "The truth is not in what he took. It is in what he built." Sloane leaned close enough that Nadia felt her breath. Your mother wrote that. Together they examined the blueprint. Beneath the planned Botanical Education Center was a sealed foundation level that did not appear on public records. Nadia remembered it vaguely, an old water collection chamber, closed after the flood. The blueprints, she said. Ethan has been asking for access to the West Wing since we got engaged. He said he wanted to turn it into event space, Sloane replied. But he wanted something hidden under it. June arrived with new audit records. Ward Urban Developments had purchased equipment for drilling and reinforced doors, billed as flood prevention work. Ethan's company had also made payments to a private storage service in the same amount as the missing restoration funds. Sloane's expression hardened. He is not trying to buy Rivermere to build apartments. Then why? A sound echoed from the staircase. Ethan stood at the archive entrance, holding a flashlight. He looked tired now, stripped of the polished control he wore in courtrooms and hotel lobbies. You were looking in the wrong place, he said. Nadia rose. You forged my name. You blackmailed Iris. You stole from my mother. I did what my father trained me to do. That is not an excuse. No, Ethan looked at Sloane. But she knows what was stored under this building. Ask her. Ask her why your mother sealed the chamber. Sloane's silence hit harder than his accusation. What is under the West Wing? Nadia asked. Sloane closed her eyes for a second. Letters, she said. And evidence that can ruin more people than Ethan. The sealed chamber lay beneath a rusted service door behind the West Wing's old potting room. Nadia had passed that door 100 times as a child. Her mother had always called it the place where the building kept its ghosts. Sloane brought a locksmith, June brought 2 cameras, and Nadia brought the only thing she had left to offer, consent. She would not let anyone open another part of her mother's life without her standing there. The door gave way after 20 minutes. Cold air breathed out. The chamber was smaller than Nadia imagined, lined with old stone and metal shelves. On them rested waterproof boxes, ledgers, and a single broken garden statue. There was no treasure, no dramatic vault. Only records. Sloane lifted the first box with gloved hands. Your mother found these after the flood. Inside were letters between Ethan's father, Martin Hale, and several city officials. They described illegal zoning deals, bribery, and plans to declare Rivermere structurally unsound so it could be sold cheaply. The Wards had never wanted the gardens. They wanted the riverfront land beneath them. But that was years ago, Nadia said. The scheme failed because Amara found the correspondence, Sloane replied. She sealed it here while she decided what to do. Then she became ill. And you knew. I knew enough to help her protect it. Not enough to know where every document was hidden. Ethan laughed from the doorway. No one had heard him enter. He held a lighter in one hand and a plastic fuel can in the other. You are all so sentimental, he said. Paper. Glass. Dead women's promises. June moved first, but Ethan sloshed fuel across the stone floor. The sharp smell filled the chamber. Do not, Nadia said. Ethan looked at her, and for a moment she saw the man who had held her after her mother's funeral. The man who had promised she would never be alone. The memory made his face more frightening, not less. You could have walked away, he said. We could have had a good life. You mean a life where I never knew what you were doing? A peaceful life. That is not peace. That is a cage. His thumb flicked the lighter. Sloane stepped between Ethan and Nadia. You burned this room, Sloane said, and you confessed to every crime in those boxes. Ethan smiled. You think I came alone? Above them, a violent crash shook dust from the ceiling. Somewhere in the conservatory, glass shattered. June touched her earpiece. Her face drained of color. Martin's men are in the East Wing, she said. They are setting small fires to force an evacuation. Nadia looked at the ledgers, then at the glass building her mother had saved. For the first time, she understood the choice had never been between a wedding and a breakup. It was between being protected by the truth and being destroyed by it. The alarm system began to scream. Ethan used the noise as cover. He kicked the fuel can toward June, shoved past Sloane, and ran up the service stairs. Nadia followed before anyone could stop her. Nadia, Sloane called. But Rivermere was burning above them, and every instinct she had belonged to the building. Smoke curled beneath the potting room ceiling. In the east wing, a pane of glass burst outward with a sound like a gunshot. Visitors had been evacuated, June said through her earpiece, but 2 groundskeepers were still missing. Nadia raced toward the central dome. Ethan's silhouette moved ahead through the haze, heading for the old control room where the irrigation pumps and fire shutters could be manually operated. He knew the building because she had taught him. The realization hurt, then hardened. At the control room door, Ethan turned. His hair was wet with rain and sprinkler water. "You should have come with me," he said. "Why are you doing this?" Nadia demanded. "Because my father died owing people money." Martin promised a way out. The chamber records were leverage. The land was collateral. "Then you made it complicated." "I made it complicated by existing? You made me care." Nadia almost laughed. "No. You cared about having someone gentle enough to forgive you." The words landed. For 1 second, he looked like he might strike her. Then Sloane appeared behind Nadia, coughing hard. "The fire shutters, Ethan. Open them." He hit the control panel with his fist. "You always think you can command everyone." "No," Sloane said. "I think people can choose better than their fathers." Ethan's hand hovered over the switches. A red emergency lever gleamed beside him. Outside, Nadia heard the groundskeepers shouting from the locked orchid wing. "If I open the shutters, police will see me leave," Ethan said. "If you do not, people will die." For the first time, Ethan looked truly lost. Nadia stepped forward. "You can still stop." His eyes met hers. She saw no love there, only the exhausted terror of someone who had spent too long building his life around escape. Then he pulled the lever. Fire shutters rose across the east wing. Sprinklers surged. The trapped groundskeepers stumbled out through smoke. In the confusion, Ethan shoved Sloane against the wall and ran through the side exit. Sloane caught herself, but a falling shard of glass cut across her shoulder. Blood bloomed through her white shirt. Nadia pressed her hand over the wound. "Stay with me." Sloane's face had gone pale. "I am here." Sirens arrived at last, blue lights streaking through the rain. As firefighters moved past them, Nadia held Sloane's hand tightly enough to feel her pulse. In the distance, a black car tore away from the river road. Ethan had escaped. Rivermere survived the fire, but survival was not the same as being unharmed. The east wing roof collapsed over the empty orchid corridor. Several historic windows shattered. Smoke blackened the dome her mother had spent 4 years restoring. Nadia sat beside Sloane's hospital bed until morning. The cut required stitches, nothing more, the doctor said. Sloane seemed irritated by the fuss, which only made Nadia more determined not to leave. June brought coffee. Iris brought a bag of clothes and stood in the doorway, unsure whether she deserved to enter. "You can come in," Nadia told her. Iris's eyes filled. "I should have told you earlier." "Yes." Nadia did not soften the truth. "But you are telling me now." That was all forgiveness could be at first. Not absolution, but a door unlocked 1 inch. By noon, detectives had found Ethan's abandoned car near the ferry terminal. The metal case from the deposit box was in the trunk. It contained copies of Amara's letters, but not the original evidence from the chamber. Martin Hale had been detained at a private airfield with forged travel documents and a suitcase full of cash. Then June received another message. A video had been uploaded anonymously to several local news sites. It showed Sloane entering the trust archive, carrying the folder that later held the forged amendment. The footage was edited to make her look like the architect of the fraud. Reporters began gathering outside the hospital. Sloane watched the screen without blinking. "He is trying to turn the case into my word against his." "No," Nadia said. "He is trying to make me doubt you." "Is it working?" The question was so quiet Nadia almost missed it. She thought of every secret Sloane had kept, every time protection had looked like control. She thought of Sloane standing between her and fire, of the way Sloane had stepped back whenever Nadia asked for space. "It is making me angry," Nadia said. "That is not the same thing." Sloane looked at her then, really looked. "Nadia, you should not have to carry my reputation while you are rebuilding your own life." "I am not carrying it. I am deciding what I see." Nadia took the hospital tablet and opened the archive video frame by frame. In the reflection of the glass cabinet behind Sloane, a second figure appeared near the door. A man in a blue maintenance jacket. The same jacket worn by the camera carrier at Central Station. "June," Nadia said. "Can you enhance this?" June smiled for the first time all day. "Already doing it." Sloane reached for Nadia's hand, then stopped halfway, waiting. Nadia closed the distance herself. "Staying is not a promise to ignore your mistakes," she said. "It is a promise not to run from the truth." Sloane's thumb brushed the back of her hand. "Then I will tell you every truth I have. Start with the one you are most afraid of." Sloane's gaze dropped to their joined fingers. "I am afraid that when this is over, you will realize I am not the woman you want." Nadia squeezed her hand. "That is the first honest thing you have ever been afraid of." The enhanced footage identified the man in the blue jacket as a contractor employed by Hale Civic Restoration, one of Martin's companies. Detectives connected him to the station camera and to a storage unit rented under a false name. Inside they found editing equipment, copied trust documents, and 3 boxes of old Rivermere blueprints. One blueprint was missing from the chamber. Nadia knew which one before June said it, the original foundation plan for the West Wing. "It is not with Martin," Nadia said. "Ethan kept it." Iris looked up from the evidence table. "He mentioned a place near the river. A showroom. He said it was where the Real wedding would happen." Nadia frowned. "What does that mean?" "He wanted an event at Rivermere after the sale. A launch party for the redevelopment. He called it a wedding because it would make everyone believe the land had changed hands peacefully." The showroom was an abandoned glassworks on the opposite bank, once owned by the Wards. Police searched it that evening and found Ethan inside the old blueprint room, surrounded by drafting tables and maps. He had not fled the city. He had been waiting. Nadia insisted on going after detectives confirmed the site was secure. Sloane objected immediately. "You do not need to see him." "I do. You have seen enough." "No," Nadia faced her. "I have spent years looking at the version of him he offered me. I need to see the truth without anyone translating it." Sloane's expression softened, then she nodded. "I will be nearby." Ethan sat in a police interview room with his hands cuffed to the table. He looked smaller without expensive suits and flattering light. On the wall behind him hung a copy of Rivermere's original blueprint, marked with red lines leading from the sealed chamber to the river. "The letters were not the only thing down there," he said when Nadia entered. "What else?" "Land rights. Your mother discovered that the city promised Rivermere protected status forever. If the original plan surfaced, the Wards could never develop it. My father buried it. Martin hid it. I was supposed to retrieve it before you found out. And when you could not? I thought if we married, you would trust me with everything." The frankness made Nadia cold. "You were never going to love me honestly." Ethan looked away. "I did love you. Love that needs ignorance is not love." His face twisted. "Sloane will hurt you too. She needs to be needed." "Maybe," Nadia said. "But she does not need me to be small." She walked out before he could answer. Outside, Sloane waited by the car, hands deep in her coat pockets. Nadia crossed the wet pavement and stopped in front of her. "The blueprint protects Rivermere," she said. Sloane nodded. "Then your mother won." Nadia looked at the woman who had held her mother's secrets, her own fear, and now a future she had not asked for. "No," Nadia said. "We did." News of Ethan's arrest spread quickly. By the next morning, every headline called him either a disgraced heir or a heartbroken groom. None of them called him what he was, a man who had mistaken access for ownership. The trust board scheduled an emergency public hearing. Because Rivermere was a cultural landmark, the meeting would be held in the conservatory itself once firefighters declared the central dome safe. Nadia could have stayed away and let lawyers speak for her. Instead, she chose the front table. Before the hearing, she found Sloane standing alone in the damaged east wing. Sunlight came through the temporary plastic covering where the glass had shattered. The roses had survived, though their leaves were gray with soot. "I should be helping clean," Nadia said. "You have been helping all week." "That is not the same as cleaning." Sloane gave her a tired smile. "No, it is not." For a moment they listened to volunteers sweep broken glass into bins. "I need to tell you something," Sloane said. Nadia's chest tightened automatically. Is it another secret? It is an old one. Your mother asked me to become your legal guardian after she learned Ethan's father had threatened her. Nadia stared. I was 22. You were an adult. The guardianship would only have applied to the trust, not to you. Amara was frightened that the wards would use paperwork to corner you. I refused. Why? Because I thought it would make you resent me. And because I knew I could not promise to be objective where you were concerned. The words changed the air. You cared about me then? I knew you as Amara's daughter. You used to bring your sketchbook to the site and criticize my spreadsheets. A faint color touched Sloane's cheeks. I cared in the way one cares about someone bright and determined. I did not know you. Not as you are now. Nadia breathed again. Sloane continued. I want you to know that I will sign away every claim, every emergency right, every connection to Rivermere if it helps you feel free. The offer was generous. It was also sad. Nadia stepped closer. You keep thinking freedom means no one gets to stand beside me. I am learning. Good. Learn this too. Nadia touched the edge of Sloane's bandage. I do not want you because you saved a building. I do not want you because Ethan fears you. I want you because when I tell you no, you listen. When I tell you I am afraid, you do not make me ashamed of it. Sloane's eyes shone. Nadia. But I am not ready for forever, Nadia added. A smile broke through Sloane's seriousness. Neither am I. Nadia laughed. It felt strange and wonderful after so many days of smoke. Then Sloane kissed her, gently, in the daylight where anyone could have seen. The public hearing filled Rivermere's central dome with trustees, reporters, volunteers, and neighbors. Smoke still shadowed the eastern glass, but the orchids had been moved beneath the brightest part of the roof. June presented the audit, forged signatures, diverted funds, shell companies, and the staged archive footage. Celeste proved the amendment was false. Iris described Ethan's threats without lowering her eyes. Then Nadia stood with the original foundation blueprint in her hands. My mother restored this building because beauty should not belong only to people who can buy it, she said. The wards treated Rivermere as land. Martin Hale treated it as leverage. Ethan treated my trust as something he could access by marrying me. She laid the plan on the table. But this clause protects Rivermere forever. It cannot be sold for private redevelopment. Its future belongs to the people who care for it. The trustees voted unanimously to remove Martin, void the sale, and place the conservatory under independent management. They offered Nadia the director role. I accept, she said, with one condition. Sloane Mercer may advise on finances, but no one person will have unilateral control. Every decision will be transparent. Sloane's eyes held relief, not disappointment. The board approved. Ethan's image remained on the courtroom screen after the room emptied. Nadia, he said. I am sorry. She believed he was sorry, perhaps for losing. But she no longer owed him a softer ending. I hope you learn the difference between being forgiven and being entitled to forgiveness, she said. Then she left the screen dark behind her. The weeks after the hearing were quieter than Nadia expected. Repairs began in the East Wing. Iris took a job with a nonprofit supporting people facing coercion and digital abuse. Nadia did not become her best friend again, but they met for coffee once, and compassion became possible without pretending nothing happened. Sloane visited Rivermere only when invited. At first, Nadia noticed every absence. Then she understood that Sloane was practicing what Nadia had asked, being present without taking over. One evening, Nadia found her in the greenhouse cafe studying a volunteer schedule. You are not allowed to reorganize the planting teams, Nadia said. I only suggested color-coded badges. They're gardeners, not a hostile merger. Sloane looked offended. Organization is a love language. Then learn another one. Soup. Better. Nadia showed her the West Wing plan, a free studio for women artists, local gardeners, and community groups. Amara's papers would have an archive room, but its door would stay open. No locked ghosts, Sloane said. No locked ghosts, Nadia agreed. Outside, repaired windows caught the sunset. Rivermere stood not because it had escaped damage, but because people had chosen to mend it. 6 months later, Rivermere reopened with every light blazing. The East Wing had become the Amara Rahman studio, full of paintings, restoration sketches, and letters from visitors who remembered the conservatory before it was nearly lost. Iris managed the community safety desk. June taught a workshop on digital privacy. Celeste donated legal clinics. Sloane arrived late, carrying no flowers. "I brought something better," she said, handing Nadia a small framed note found among Amara's mislabeled plumbing invoices. "Keep the doors open. Buildings survive when people believe they belong inside." Nadia touched the frame. That sounds like her. After the crowd thinned, she led Sloane to the orchid room. "This is where I found Ethan," Nadia said. "I thought my life broke here. And now? Now I think I stopped agreeing to a life that was too small." Sloane took her hand. "I will always help if you want me to." "I want you to keep choosing me," Nadia said. "Not because you owe my mother or because you need to save me. Because it is me." Sloane's tears shone without falling. "It has been you longer than I knew how to admit." They kissed beneath the restored glass, with nothing hidden and no one to fear. A year after the fire, Nadia found Sloane in the West Wing, adjusting a hanging fern beneath glass. Sloane handed Nadia a brass key. The new archive key. 2 copies. No secret doors. Nadia closed her hand around it. "No secret doors. Would you like to go away with me next month?" Nadia smiled. "When we return, we can talk about a wedding. Not because we need proof. Someday, when it feels like an invitation." Sloane smiled. "Someday sounds perfect." The first visitors arrived as the sun rose. Nadia took Sloane's hand and opened the doors to gardens, light, and people coming in.